Hello everyone. Today I Yamini Kantpal working in DPS Haldwani Lamachar as English TGT. In today's video I'll explain you chapter 7 Glimpses of India. Students, this chapter consists of 3 stories and in today's video I'll cover the first part of the chapter, first part of the story, that is A Baker from Goa, written by Lucy Rodriguez. So this story revolves around the bread relevance of bread in the Goan culture. In this story, the narrator is telling about the time when the Portuguese they ruled over the city of Goa. They used to love bread, although they had left the Goa, but still the bread has its own importance in Goan culture. In every traditional, or we can say in every parties, there is very importance of bread. No occasion is successful without bread in Goan culture. So in this story, the author recalls his childhood days and how they used to wait for a long time for the baker.
So students, now I'll explain you the entire story line by line. This is the first part, a baker from Goa. This is a pan portrait of a traditional Goan village baker who still has an important place in his society. So students, we all know that portrait is a drawing. And then what is pan portrait? When you write something and you describe it so beautifully so that the reader can visualize the picture. So this is a pan portrait of a traditional Goan village baker who has still his importance in his society. This lesson begins how the narrator's elders often recalls the time when Goa was under the rule of Portuguese. They talk how the importance of baker is still maintained in their village even after the Portuguese have left. Our elders are often heard reminiscing nostalgically about those good old Portuguese days, the Portuguese and their famous loaves of bread. So here the narrator was talking about his elders when he was a small boy. He often heard reminiscing means memories, remembering. Nostalgically means thinking fondly of the past. So still he used to remember that his elders were missing the Portuguese days when the Portuguese ruled over Goa and their famous loaves of bread. Loaves is a past tense of loaf, Loaf. It is a kind of bread that is shaped and baked in a single piece and can be sliced for eating. And those Portuguese were famous for their loaves of bread. Those eaters of loaves might have vanished, but the makers are still there. Those Portuguese, those who used to love loaves, might have vanished. Vanished means disappeared. They went. They had gone. But the bakers are still there in Goa. We still have amongst us the mixture, the molders, and those who bake the loaves. So here the narrator is telling that still they have the bakers, those who love to bake the loaves. Those age-old time-tested furnaces still exist. Now he was telling about the furnaces, although they were very old and time-tested but still in working condition. The fire in furnaces has not been extinguished. And the furnaces, you know what is furnaces? Furnaces is an enclosed structure in which materials can be heated to a very high temperature. The third and jingle of the traditional baker's bamboo heralding his arrival in the morning can still be heard in some places. So whenever the baker arrives, he keeps beating on the ground so that a special kind of sound emerges. We can also say a kind of alarm that baker is arriving. Heralding means arriving. So in some part of the Goa's villages, still we can hear such traditional sound making by the bakers in the morning time. Maybe the father is not alive, but the son still carries on the family profession. Maybe those who have started The business of the bakery are not alive, but their profession is still carries on the family profession, means generation to generation. These bakers are even today known as padar in Goa, and these bakers are known as padar. Padar means baker in Portuguese language. In Goa, these bakers are known as padar. During the childhood in Goa, the baker used to be our friend, companion, and guide. Now the narrator recalls that the baker acted as their friend and companion during their childhood days in Goa. He used to come at least twice a day. Once when he set out in the morning on his selling round, and then again when he returned after emptying his huge basket. So the baker used to visit twice a day, once while he was on the round to sell his loaves, and the other time while returning back with his empty basket, having sold all the loaves. The jingling thud of his bamboo woke us up from sleep, and we ran to meet and greet him. So the jingling sound he used to make with his bamboo woke up all the children from their sleep, and they ran to meet and greet him. And they were very curious to meet him. Why was it so? Was it for the love of the loaf? So the narrator was not sure why were they went to meet the baker. Was it love for the loaf? No, not at all. The loaves were bought by some Paskin or Bastian, the maidservant of the house. No, that was not the love for the loaf, because the loaves were bought by the maidservant of their house by Paskin and Bastin. What we longed for were those bread bangles which we chose carefully. Sometimes it was sweet bread of a special make. They were desired for those bread bangles. So they were desired, those narrator and his friends, they were desired to get those bread bangles which they chose carefully, and sometimes it was sweet bread of a special, they were a special kind of sweet bread. The baker made his musical entry on the scene with the jang jang sound of his specially made bamboo staff. Staff means a stick. So the baker often made a musical entry with his bamboo stick. One hand supported the basket on his head and the other banged the bamboo on the ground. So with one hand he used to support his basket carrying the loaves of bread, and on the other hand he used to make sound of his arrival. He banged the bamboo on the ground to make the sound of his arrival. He would greet the lady of the house with good morning and then place his basket on the vertical bamboo. So when he would go to selling his loaves, he first greet the lady of the house good morning, and then he put his basket on the vertical bamboo. Wickets would be pushed aside with the mild rebuke. Rebuke means scolding. Mild rebuke, and the loaves would be delivered to the servants. So the children were scolded by their parents, and the loaves were delivered to the servant. But we would not give up. We would climb a bench or the parapet. Parapet means we can say a railing or a low protective wall. So, but the children, they wouldn't give up. They would climb on a bench or a parapet, and they would peep into the basket somehow. I can still recall the typical fragrance of those loaves. So now the narrator was still recall the fragrance of those loaves, those freshly baked loaves. Loaves for the elders and the bangles for the children. There were two kinds of breads, loaves for the elders and the bangles for the children. Bangles means here a kind of bread that shape of a bangle called cancorn. Then we did not even care to brush our teeth or wash our mouths. When they were so excited when they see those bangles, a kind of bread, they forgot to brush their teeth or wash their mouths properly. And why should we? Who would take care the trouble of plucking the mango leaf for the toothbrush? So because they were so excited to eat those bangles and they were not bothered to brush their teeth. They were not taking that much pain to plucking the mango leaf for to use as a toothbrush. And why was it is necessary at all? The tiger never brushed his teeth. Hot tea could wash and clean up everything so nicely after all. Then they give the excuses that the tiger never used to brush his teeth. And hot tea could wash the clean up everything which is stuck on the teeth nicely after all. Marriage gifts are meaningless without the sweet bread known as the bowl, just as a party or a feast loses its charm without bread. So, here the narrator is telling bread is an important part of the Goan culture and it is evident from its presence at every important occasion. Not enough can be said to show how important a baker can be for a village. So, these like bread is important in marriages, in party, in feast, and those parties, those occasions were not successful without the bread. So, we can say not enough can be said to show how important a baker can be for a village. So, we can say that the importance of baker is very important in the village. The lady of a house must prepare sandwiches on the occasion of her daughter's engagement. Cakes and bolinhas bolinhas are a must for Christmas as well as other festivals. So, in the occasion of engagement, the ladies they used to make sandwiches, and during the Christmas they used to bake cakes as well as other festival. Thus, the presence of baker's furnace in the village is absolutely essential. So, the presence of baker furnace. So, the presence of the baker in every village is very important, is very essential. The baker or bread seller of those days had a peculiar dress known as the kabai. Peculiar means a special. The baker and the bread seller of those time, those olden days, they have a special type of dress known as kabai. It was a single piece long frock reaching down to the knees. It was a kind of a long piece, a long single piece long frock till the knees, reaching till the knees, down the knees. In our childhood, we saw bakers wearing a shirt and trousers which were shorter than full length ones and longer than half pants. So the narrator is telling us in his childhood days, they used to saw bakers, they were wearing a shirt and trouser. And the trouser was not full length ones and but longer than half pants. Even today, anyone who wears a half pant which reaches just below the knees invites the comment that he is dressed like a padder. So even today in Goa, if anyone who wears a half pant which reaches just below the knees invites the comment that he is just like a padder, that he just dressed like a baker. The baker usually collected his bill at the end of the month. The baker used to collect his bill at the end of the month. Monthly accounts used to be recorded on some wall in pencil. He used to record his bill on some wall with pencil. Baking was indeed a profitable profession in the old days, and here the narrator is telling us that the baking was certainly a profitable profession in the olden days. The bakers and his family never starved. The baker and his family never remain hungry because they have to eat a lot of breads. He and his family and his servants always looked happy and prosperous. He, his family, and his servants always look happy and joyous. Their plump physique was an open testimony to this, and their fit body was an open testimony. Open testimony means the public statement about a character or quality. Means anybody can see them from the distance. With their appearance, they can find out that the people were very prosperous and happy. Even today, any person with a jackfruit like physical appearance is easily compared to a baker. Even today in Goa, if any person whose physical appearance is just like a jackfruit is a kind of vegetable, he easily compared to a baker. So with this, we'll come to end of the story.